We all know Barcelona want to sign a new midfielder this season, either Frenkie De Jong, Rabiot, N'Golo Kante or Paul Pogba. Should we try and get a new player where we have already La Masia and our youth prospects right to the side? The discussion is going to start right now. What's going on, guys? ¿Cómo están? BugaLuis here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the midfielder discussion. We already discussed our defenders up here, so you can check it out if you missed that video. But just like always, if you hate fake news as well as bullcrap bias, then this is the right place to be. So I encourage you, all of you, to click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss anything of the content that will be uploading here on the channel. But now let's get right into the video. Okay, so this video is a response to some of you who has commented on my last video talking about the possibility of Paul Pogba joining Barcelona. And I'm actually making this video to try and discuss with some of you who perhaps have not read the comments in that video. And that's about we're not using La Masia, that really we're going for players when we have something as important and something as useful as a very good youth program already in our ranks. And we're not using that. Many clubs don't have this and we should be trying to take advantage of it rather than just pushing it to the side. But before talking about La Masia, I want to talk a little bit about the transfers and a little bit talk about which one will be the best for Barcelona, because it's no secret that a new player, a new midfielder is going to come into the club this season. It's no secret. I mean, me and you, we know that somebody is going to come in. We know that Barcelona are going to sign a new player, so let's just find out which one would actually be the best. So I would like to start off this video by talking about Frenkie De Jong. Frenkie De Jong obviously is the youngest player we're currently looking into. He's 21 years old and has, to be honest, for his age, quite a good experience playing in the Ajax first team by playing both a defensive and also central midfielder. I think he will be a good option for Barcelona, not only because he won't demand too much game time because he knows he's very young and he would actually be playing like at least 30 or 40% of the season and would be good, but most importantly because he also have that ability of playing in a club who plays very similar to Barcelona. I think his adaptation would actually be much faster in Ajax, by playing in Ajax, than playing in Chelsea, playing in Manchester United or even PSG. So I think that taking in account that De Jong is this young and has that ability of just have a much faster adaptation than people like Rabiot, Pogba and Kante, because he's already playing a similar system to our system, I think he would be probably right now one of the best options we could sign this season, giving into account also that would cost around 50 million euros for his signing. It's a little bit risky because obviously he's coming very young and it's a high risk, high reward kind of deal, but if we actually get the best out of him, I think it will be quite a bargain. So we move over the page into Rabiot, and in Rabiot we find a player which is 23 years old and it's quite cemented into that PSG first 11. This is a player who, in contrast to Frenkie De Jong, will demand a little bit more game time, and I think that would actually be kind of like a negative thing here for Barcelona, because right now we cannot give him and assure him that he will play at least 50% of the matches. I think he would actually play quite less. In this sense, I think that Rabiot could create some disturbances in the locker room, and I really do not like that. We see that his attitude both previously in PSG has been kind of shaky, especially in France after he's not being called up to the World Cup. I think we don't need that kind of attitude right now in Barcelona because we are a very united team, and just like always, we are más que un club. And I think this is actually a thing that we have to define in our players, and I think that Rabiot thinks a little bit more individually rather than on a collective and rather on a team. But we also need to take into consideration that Rabiot is probably the most accessible of these transfer signings. This is probably the signing which could most likely happen. We know that Pep Segura and Eric Abidal met with Nasser El Khelaifi, the president of PSG, obviously in the final in the Luzhniki Stadium, and we also seen that they are scheduling a meeting for next week where they're probably going to discuss alongside Thomas Tuchel, the manager for PSG, whether Rabiot serves surplus to requirements in PSG. So that could probably see a deal of even Rabiot being done by next week. That's kind of worrying, to be honest, because like I said, I don't like his attitude. I don't want this kind of player. And most importantly, he has also demanded that he cannot play as a CDM in this Barcelona side. And that's kind of worrying because we're already settling for some requirements the player is making, when, to be honest, the guy who's being hired can never set requirements. He's always going to be forced to do whatever the boss says. But in this case, Barcelona are doing it the opposite way, and I do not like that by any means. Okay, so moving on from Rabiot, we move to another Frenchman, and this is N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante is a player who we know that now interests Barcelona very much, not only for being a World Cup champion basically, but also because he adds that extra little bit of defensive spice that we don't have in our squad currently. And that's actually quite beneficial for our side because we lack a lot in getting the ball back from a counter attack, and that's how we got hurt most of the time last season. I think that someone like Kante would actually add something to Barcelona we don't have, and that's actually a good path to trying to become a more competitive club. We've been obviously very competitive in the past, but right now, to be honest, in Europe we've only reached the quarterfinals for a very long time now, and we've not been able to go through that stage. I think that someone like Kante would be very good in helping us doing that. But the thing here is that I don't know how good could Kante be in another position that isn't a CDM or even a center midfielder. Could that be possible? And most importantly, being Kante and being like already, like I told you, a World Cup champion, he will demand more playing time and even a starting position in this team. So he would play alongside someone like Rakitic perhaps, and then we have Coutinho for the left wing, or how would it work? That's the main thing. I think that Kante, signing Kante currently in our squad demands us to do so much for just one player and really not thinking in the entire collective of the team. If you can find a way to fit Kante into this Barcelona side with a new formation or something, please let me know in the comment box down below. But right now in this time, I don't think Valverde is gonna be settling to kick basically Rakitic out of the first 11. I heard in the video talking about Kante that some of you were willing to let Rakitic go, but to be honest, I don't think that's kind of realistic. I really do not think that's realistic. I think Rakitic will play a main role in this one, so we need to find a way for both to accommodate Kante and Rakitic. Right now, I don't see Dembele also starting, so that's the main thing, but we're also going to discuss that in another video of our forwards, probably in the next few days that I will make, so keep in touch for that as well. So now finally we take a look at the last midfielder, and that's Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba obviously is the biggest transfer signing that we could make this season. He's probably worth around 150 to 170 million euros, which is quite a lot, and that's obviously a quite big negative for signing someone like Pogba. We must also take into consideration that he's someone like 25, so he's currently playing his best football and still have some more years to give at his prime, and it's actually quite good. Plus, I think the potential of this guy is much higher than any of the other players we've discussed in this video. That's also a good thing that Barcelona could take into consideration, but the main thing is how long would Pogba stay here. Someone of that amount of money, of that value, of that big name could certainly play for Barcelona for many years. So that's a positive or a negative depending on how you look at it, and especially for me that could be kind of like a positive. I've already talked before that Pogba for me could be a signing that I really enjoy because I think he gives us that physicality, that that height basically, and that ball playing ability that right now we're lacking, or we could boost even more. And in that sense, I think Pogba could be as a good option for us. But the main thing here is that it's also kind of like a high risk, high reward kind of deal, especially as we take into consideration, we contrast it to someone like Frenkie De Jong. Frenkie De Jong is 50 million euros of a high risk, high reward kind of deal because he's very young, but he obviously has that years in front of him, so that could be a good thing. But Pogba is a player we need to demand him right now, so that's also kind of like a negative. Very similar to N'Golo Kante, Pogba will also demand a lot of game time, and we also need to shape our squad around for Paul Pogba, and that also could be a negative if you take a look at it in that way. So I'm really not exactly confident about this signing. Out of all the signings right now, all the potential transfer targets we should get, I think Frenkie De Jong is the best. I think he's the best because he adds all the positive that Rabiot, Kante and Pogba has, because Frenkie De Jong is also a very similar profile to someone like Rabiot and also knows how to defend, and he also won't demand much game time, and that's the main thing. I think that we need to give game time to players like Rakitic, well, we have them right now, or someone like Coutinho and even Ousmane Dembele. If we buy Kante or Pogba or even Rabiot, forget about Dembele. Dembele won't play. That's the main thing. He won't play, and that's very bad because Dembele needs all the game time he can really need. And let's take into consideration he has only played half a season, so he still has a lot to learn. So we must give him the right to play at least play 60-70% of the matches as a starter. And I think that Frenkie De Jong will be the best option to let him do that, as well as gaining a young player for this season. So in my opinion, I will go with Frenkie De Jong. Okay, so I know I'm missing something, and that is La Masia. That's the youth program that we currently have. Should we try and take advantage of this? And to be honest, if it was up to me, I will. I would really give advantage to it, and by signing Frenkie De Jong, I think we will get the best of La Masia. Ernesto Valverde has said time and time again that he wants a thin squad. He wants a really thin squad, not only because he will be able to have the ability of training man-to-man for every player out there in the squad, but most importantly because he will be able to have that ability of bringing players from La Masia in. If we buy Frenkie De Jong and we have Arthur, we will only have, to be honest, 2 substitutes for 3 positions. We would only have Frenkie De Jong and Arthur to replace Coutinho, Rakitic and Busquets. That's a big thing, to be honest. That's a very, very big thing, a very big hole. And that would give the ability for someone like Valverde to call Aleñá, for instance. If De Jong is injured or something like that, Aleñá could come in. If we need somebody to replace Sergio Busquets for a Copa del Rey match, Oriol Busquets will come in. That's the thing. We will have that ability of incorporating La Masia, and that's very, very good. If we would have gone for someone like, Pogba, someone like Kante, someone like Rabiot, that wouldn't happen. That, to be honest, wouldn't happen, and that's very, very bad. And that's why I feel that Barcelona should try and sign Frenkie De Jong, because being 21 years old, he won't demand a starting position, allowing for even more players to come in for La Masia. I think that's the better option for us. La Masia is a thing that is really the spirit of Barcelona, and we should not try and lose this. We know that Bartomeu is not a very big fan of La Masia, or at least hasn't shown us that because of the signings of Coutinho and Dembélé, but they have changed things up. Be honest with you, how we've changed things this season already by signing Abidal, signing Planas, and signing Pep Segura, or Pep Segura already being there but adopting a new position in the club. We've allowed ourselves to have 3 people in the spot of just 1. 3 people is our sporting director. We have Abidal, Segura, and Planas as our sporting directors. They are a unit. Each one takes a look at a different part of the club. We have one who takes a look at it from a financial perspective. We take a look at one which takes one from a sporting sense, and we have one who takes a look from the well-being of our players, and that's Abidal. Abidal, to be honest, is not just a sporting director. He takes a look for the well-being of the players, and it has also been reflected in some of the contracts with some of the younger prospects of Barcelona have signed with the club. Juan Miranda, which is a left back and a very promising left back, has signed a contract with renewing with Barcelona for 3 more years, and if he doesn't play in the Barcelona first team in 1 year, in 2020 to 2021, he will leave the club for free. You see? So we've seen this progression in the Barcelona squad, and I think that we're coming back into our normal spirit of using La Masia. So don't worry guys, I think it will happen, but let's remember that stuff like this don't happen in just one day. Let's give them time to get this working. Let's try this season and the next one, and that's when we're gonna see the progress made. If we try and change this, if we try and change just time again, it's never gonna happen. I take an example of my YouTube channel. If I try to change these things, like one day I say, oh no, my channel should be actually in Spanish, or oh no, I should be doing more FIFA videos, stuff like that, and I change every single week, I'm never gonna see progress. I need to stick with one idea for the long run, and that's when I'm gonna see progress. Right now that I'm doing Barcelona videos, news updates with you guys after the World Cup, I've seen really a lot of progress, but that's because I'm sticking with it. So that's the thing, we need to stick with La Masia, we need to stick with this progress and just help it run. But if we really just are obstacles and we make them stop and not really progress, we're never gonna see that long run being promising. We're just gonna stop every single time we get, and that's bad. So we need to give our support to the club and basically just encourage them to keep with La Masia, and that will happen. So it's gonna be everything for now guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment box down below. Tell me exactly what do you think, which player would you sign, and what do you think about La Masia. Let me know all of that in the comment box down below. And also remember that if you hate fake news as well as bullcrap bias, then this is the right place to be. So click also the subscribe button there down below next to your comments, so you can keep up to date with all the video that we are uploading here on this channel. So just like always, see you in the next one. Take care. Ciao.